Shalom everybody. I have received many requests to do a video discussing different uses of the letters, how to understand them, and if they can be applied to various other languages, how the gematria works, and do things like slang and ebonics apply to it. So, let us address all of these things today. I'll give brief demonstrations using the crown jewel, and then we'll address the 231 gate cipher, as well as two other ciphers that are included. Collectively, there are 7 secret ciphers, which reveal the nature of all of these things. In this video, we will discuss 4. Now the crown jewel, which is associated with the level of Ain, are divided between 3 mother letters, Aleph, Mem, and Shin. Of course, Mem is written one of 2 ways, and so it comes to include its Sophite form. 7 double letters, which are Beit, Gimel, Kaf, Fe, Tav, Resh, and Dalet. And 12 elemental letters that are Tet, Tzadi, Zain, Ayin, Yud, Lamed, Samek, He, Chet, Nun, Vav, Kof. They are called elemental letters because they stem from one of the mother letters, which are the elements. Now, the 22 letters plus the additional mem for its mem sophite is the secret of the word emet, or truth. This is primarily concealed in the verse Emet leYaakov, truth to Yaakov, and also Torah of truth, Torah of emet, which comes to include the 22 letters, their fixed positions, and the additional mem sophite. Now, it is well known the concept of Aleph separates mem from shin, which has been discussed and reviewed at length. We understand the basic core concepts that shin is fire, Aleph is air, mem is water, and mem sophite is the earth. The general principle being Aleph separates mem from shin. An example, the principle of the air separates liquids and solids from the light. However, these 3 mother letters give birth, as it were, to all of the other sounds. They being the secret faculties of speech. Shin, or high frequency, corresponds to the tongue, which makes the sound thereof, the letter S in English. S. The throat, which is a mid-frequency, making the sound of the letter Aleph, which is letter A in English. And Mem, corresponding to the lips, or a low frequency, the letter M in English, like this. Thus, through a combination of the throat, lips, and tongue, all of the other sounds come into existence. Thus, they give birth, as it were, to these other sounds. A few prime examples. We'll take the double letter Beit here. The letter Beit corresponds to the letter B in English. When trying to pronounce this sound, ba, you will find that you will need a combination of the lips and the throat, or 2 faculties. Ba. Thus they are called double letters in that they are produced from two mother letters. We can understand this in a much deeper way when we look at these things in terms of their principles and meanings. The letter Beit by itself, as in the letter as a word, Beit, means a house. Thus, we can see this in things like Beit HaMikdash, or the Holy Temple, where Beit, of course, means house. We see this in English, like the letter B, for example, in the word box, for a box essentially houses something. But let us take it into a much higher level. At a higher level, when we analyze the principles that were presented in the creation of this double letter, we find air houses water. So we ask the question, does the air house the water? An example, go outside and behold, air houses water. We can see this in the clouds in the sky. But let us enter into a much deeper level of this. We can see this in the letter Beit, for example, air house water, like in the word hevel, which can also mean breath in Hebrew. And we see this in the letter B in English, in the word breath. We can see this in the letter B in the word lav, heart, lev, heart. Why? Because the heart does what? Oxygenates the liquids. An example, mixes the air with the blood. Thus, we see in the word breath. And what is breath? Air that houses water. Thus, when a person takes a breathalyzer test, they're testing the liquid or alcohol content in the air or breath they're breathing. The letter B in the word breath signifies this. Now, if it is true forwards, air houses water, and indeed it is, we see this in example, the word breath, it must be also backwards. Water houses air. And thus, we can see this, for example, in the letter B in the word bubble. The letter B in the word bubble denotes water housing air. We also see that water houses air as a fundamental principle when analyzing the components of water. An example, H2O. We find that water, in fact, does house air. This is precisely what the fish breathe in through their gills. Having established that air houses water and water houses air, and given basic examples to suffice the two, let us go into deeper levels. The letter Aleph has been made known inside of Likutei, could refer to as a variable. Thus, this can be read as a variable housed in water. We can see this in words like baby. For the word baby refers to what? A variable housed in water. We can see this in words like blink. You blink to provide water to your eyes. We can see that blinking is a direct response to the eyes drying out from the air. Furthermore, by analyzing these principles, for example, housed in water, we can see in words like body, where the letter B in the word body teaches that it is primarily made out of water. We can see it like in the word birth, which means that the water breaks. We can see this in the word bath, which is a variable that enters into water. We can also see this viewed in terms of words like baptize, etc., etc., etc. The letter B in the word womb, which means a house of water, and indeed a womb is a house of water. See, at these levels, the letters are the very matrix of reality. Of this, the Zohar says, "Come and see the first subject of the Torah we give to children is the alphabet. This is a matter that mankind cannot comprehend, nor can it rise in their minds, not to mention saying it with their mouths. Even supernal angels and the most sublime cannot comprehend it, as these letters are the mysteries of the holy name." We learn that mankind cannot comprehend it, nor to mention it with their mouths, and that supernal angels and the most sublime things above them cannot comprehend it. The Zohar says in Shlach Lecha, we hear of the movement and permutations of the alphabet as the letters fly in the air. No one can understand them except for Mashiach, or Messiah. All these letters never rest. They stand out and sparkle externally and rise and descend. No one could understand anything about them except for Messiah with great toil. Because it is not based off faith or belief that a baby is housed in water and that you blink to put water on your eyes, let alone at birth the letter B signifies that water breaks, or that your body is mainly made out of water, or that breath is air that houses water. These are the very definitions of an absurdity. This is not subjective truth, but the opposite, objective truth. It is absolute and pure in its nature, and does not need recognition of any kind. It is the very light of the Illimitable One, from which it is written, he wraps himself in light. And also it is written, Vayera Elohim et Or ki tov, and Elohim saw et haor, et, aleph tav, the light, hinting to the first and last letter of the Lashon HaKodesh, or the alphabet, because it was precisely the letters that were the light. And so when it says he wraps himself in light, it means he wrapped himself in letters. Because it's written, Vayadat et Hashem, you will know that I am the Lord. And neither faith nor belief is mentioned in the Torah, but da'as of Hashem, to know him. And it is precisely through the Lashon HaKodesh one comes to know him. Based off of these basic examples, every single letter in its fixed position describes the principles and how they're to be understood. Now, there is another video called The Crown Jewel of the Atik on this channel. And in that video, is revealed all of the letters, all of their placements and locations. That video should suffice enough. But let us go into other ciphers to reveal deeper secrets about the nature of what's going on here. Now, many of you should be very familiar by now with the initial three phases of the Ein Sof, and Ein Sof Or, the crown jewel, the mind, and the skull, or the three concealed heads of the king. That, of course, being the Ancient of Days. The hard spark, an example, the skull, or the 231 gates, has been made mention of and made known to you all to be the fronts and backs of the Sfirot. An example, the 22 letters are the fronts and backs of the Sfirot themselves. This, ordaining the highest level of many of the ancient Ilanot, is referred to as the Malbush of the Ein Sof, or the garment of the endless. Here we see in Ilanot, or Ilan, or tree, scrolls of the world. And we can see at the very top of the scroll, this particular image. Let us zoom in on what this says. We can see a close-up of the diagram here on another Elon. At the very top of it, it says Olam HaMalbush, or the universe of the garment. We see Resh Lamed Aleph, or 231 gates, Panim, and 231 gates, backs. We see the listing of the Sfirot, Keter to Malchus, including Da'at, and again on the left for the backside. We find that it is listed according to the letters Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zain, Chet, Tes, Yud, Kaf. The same thing is with the backside, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samik, Ayin, Fet, Sadi, Kof, Resh, Shin, Tav. We can see it depicted here again on another Elon. And again, at the very top of it, it says Sefirot She'olam HaMalbush, the Sfirot of the universe of the garment. And we can see that this all has to do with the Ein Sof Baruch Hu. These 231 garments, or 231 gates, are the secret of the 22 letters as they relate to the 11 fronts and 11 backs of the Sfirot. We see Panim and Acher, or fronts and backs. We can also see here, above the Simsumim, all the way at the very top of this Elon, again, we see the Sfirot Shel Olam HaMalbush, The spheros of the universe are the garments. We see the 231 gates fronts and the 231 gates backs. Again, the 22 letters are divided between the 11 fronts of the sephirot and the 11 backs of the sephirot. Thus they are depicted here, fronts and backs. The 11 fronts and the 11 backs being the 22 Hebrew letters. In addition to the divine pattern, referred to as tree on top of tree in many of the places I've discussed it, we will look into the deeper mysteries. Understand the right and left column are the secrets of white and red. This was made known in the video prior to this one. What do we learn from this? Well, the front and back of the sphere of Chokmah, which is the top of the right column, is Beit and Mem. It was explained that the right column, which is the secret of white, the top of which is the sphere of Chokmah, called Abba, or Father, the Partsuf here. It teaches us that every male produces white, and in the secret of wisdom gives life to its possessor, we find that the white that the male produces is the secret of something living. But let us go deeper. The front and back of the sphere of Chokmah is Beit and Mem. This is the secret of the letter B in the word boy. Letter B in the word boy teaches that a boy produces white. The Mem on the back side of the sphere of Chokmah teaches that a male produces white. Man produces white. We see this letter B also in words like breasts, where the letter B in the word breast teaches that white of Chokmah comes out, and it is in the secret of life. We also see it in words like balls, in which the balls contain white and the secret of something living, an example, seed. Now, accordingly, we find that Gimel is the front side of the sphere of Bina. The left column produces red, and so we find the letter Gimel, or the letter G in English, like in the word girl. And so we find that a girl produces red. We see that the front and back of the sphere of Gevurah is Vav and Fe. Vav are the letters V, O, U, and W, as it has been made known in its respective places. And the letter Fe, written in two ways, is P and F. Thus we find the letter Vav in the secret of woman, the W in the word woman. This teaches that the woman produces red. The letter F, or Fe, teaches us that the female produces red. The letter F in the word female, because they produce red. Now, in the aspect of Ebonics, it is known that Pani means face, and it is known that all of the 11 spheros here are to be found in the Keter in relation to the tree of the body. We thus find that in the tree of the body, as being shown here, which is attributed to this backside tree, we find that Shin is in the backside of Yesod. Yesod is the reproductive organ, and so using slang, a person would say, you take a shit, because the word shit, beginning with the letter Shin, is in the backside of Yesod, and that is precisely where it emerges, in the backside of the reproductive organ, an example, the anus. Now let us apply some of the other meanings to be found here. The letter Shin is also to be known as the letter S, and thus a person has sex, and the word sex containing the letter S denotes Yesod, or the reproductive organ. Again, it is also known that Yesod of the face is the mouth, and so this is the term to suck on something, or suckling. The letter S there denotes, again, Yesod. There are many other countless different examples of said thing. Using the level of the forms and understanding Yesod, we can also denote one other thing. It is known that all of the spheros contain all of the spheros, and the spheros are called a tree. It is written, man is a tree, and thus there are 7 forms. We know they are the spirit form, the desire form, the higher self, the soul form, motion form, mental form, and physical form. When looking at the sphere of Yesod specifically, it corresponds to the mental form. Thus, it also corresponds to the reproductive organ. Using slang, we find that a person is called an asshole because of the way they think, or shit for brains, or a dickhead, or many other different types of slang used to describe the way a person thinks. This is all in the secret of the Shorosh, the roots of all of these letters in the supernal Olam. Indeed, humanity does not arise in its mind the great glory of the letters, nor do they teach of it. Neither do angels, who too also use speech for communication, understand or know any of these things, neither the things above them. Let us enter into some of the other aspects. When combining the ciphers, we can behold something even greater. The letter B in the word baby, it is in the secret of the drop of Chokmah, because Chokmah gives life to its possessor and is the secret of the whiteness. This, of course, is the seminal drop, the sperm or the seed. Thus, baby doesn't just mean variable housed in water, an example, the womb, but now it means a seminal drop in the secret of Chokmah that is housed in water. Now, there are 7 supernal ciphers which reveal the totality of all of these matters. In this video, we will discuss 4 of them. We discussed some aspects of the crown jewel, a couple of the 231 gates, an example, the album. The Zohar says of this that the letters entered in linearly on the right, but they entered in backwards on the left. This is called Atbash. And there's also another cipher that is mentioned in Book 1 called the Kuzu cipher. By placing the relative associations, we thus can find more supernal secrets. For example, in Keter, which corresponds to the head, we find the letter Tav. This is similar to the word thought. We see that the letter B here, Beit, is the backside of Yesod, now according to Atbash. And so, in slang, they say the butt, because this here hints to the letter B in its location of Yesod. However, when we apply the Kuzu cipher, we find that the letter Aleph is in the backside of Yesod. And so you see it in words like ass, which is precisely at this location. We see Lamed is also in the front side of Yesod, which can be referred to as the reproductive organ. We see it like the letter L in the word Lavia. When viewing the Atbash cipher, we find the letter Kof in the secret of Da'at. Da'as in Hebrew means knowledge, and knowledge in English begins with the letter K, that is to say the letter Kof. Thus, knowledge in English is rooted here because it refers to Da'as, which in the Albam cipher, or the 231 gate cipher, the letter Dalet is in the sphere of Da'as and begins the word thereof. The Sephira of Tiferet here on the body contains the letter He, and thus in English, the location here goes to the heart, and the H in the word heart signifies this location. Similarly, we find the letter Samek just beneath the chest. Thus we find the letter S in the word stomach, because the stomach is located in this location. Using the roots in Albam, or the 231 gate cipher, we find the letter Kof in the secret of Netzach and Hod. These correspond to the right and left legs. We can see this found, for example, like the letter K in the word knee, so on and so forth. These are but just a few examples of how the roots of these letters are to be used in the secret of these roots in the upper Olam. Now, let us enter into gematria values. We see, for example, the letter B. Chokmah is the secret of the brain, because the letter B and the word brain denotes this location. In Hebrew, it's called moach, and it begins with the letter mem, and of course we see that this is the backside of Chokmah. We find that Chokmah and Bina are the secrets of the brain. In addition to this, the letter Beit, having a numerical value of 2, as is shown here, teaches us that the brain has 2 halves. The breasts are 2 in number. When you blink, it is for 2. Balls, because it is 2. Butt, because it is 2. Let us go into deeper things. We'll now apply the aspects of the gematria values and reductions, and behold what we can learn from this. Of course, there are other subtle examples of the letter Beit in the word bicycle, which means 2, so on and so forth. Now, a square has 4 sides. By taking the first 2 letters, that is to say S and Q, and reducing it, we can discern exactly this. The letter S, corresponding to Shin, has a value of 300. Reduction means the removal of the zeros, in example 3, reducing it. And the letter Q comes from the letter Kof, in example 100, or reduced 1. What is 300 plus 100? SQ, in example 400. Remove the zeros, and it is 4. Thus a square has 4 sides. Let us analyze a word like octopus. By applying the same principle and using the initial 2 letters, we find that O corresponds to Vav, as was made known earlier. This has a value of 6, while C or Kaf has a value of 20. 20 plus 6 is 26, and when you reduce in example 2 plus 6, the answer is 8. Thus an octopus has 8 limbs, and this is the same for the word octagon, in which the O and C in octagon contains 8 sides. Now in other languages, we can find this being used as well. The word Shi in Japanese corresponds to 4. It is Shin, 300, and Yod, 10. When added together, Shin Yod, or Shi, is 310, and reducing would be 3 plus 1. That is to say, 4. And so the Japanese word for Shi is 4. Similarly, we can see this like in To, which means 10. It is formed from the letter Tav, in example 400, and O, in example the letter Vav, or 6, 406. Again, reducing 4 plus 6 gives us a numerical value of 10. And so we can find these exact principles being demonstrated in other languages, not just in its phonetics, but also the numerical gematria values. We've provided here a few of the prime examples and meditative techniques of applying the roots of the letters. They are not simply placements, but they reveal the highest and most supernal holiness. As one begins to learn the secret of each and every letter in all of its different radiances, they begin to unlock the chambers of the mind, and one letter after another begin to combine until they form words. Then the entire consciousness unlocks, and one enters into an ascended state of consciousness in which the light of the illimitable is able to enter in, and they with it, having overcame the material and accessed the ineffable. We see it in things also like insect. Taking the first 2 letters, Yod and Nun, we find that Yod is 10 and Nun is 50. Reducing the 2, 10 plus 50 is 60. Removing the 0 is 6. Thus, an insect is identified by 6 legs. With that being said, many blessings to you all. As David HaMelech said, open my eyes that I may behold the wonders of your Torah. Shalom, Selah.